third year and in our second year of implementation in New York City, but it seems that there still are a lot of nuances that make it complicated because change is always a challenge, especially when in New York we were doing things that we were taught, and don't laugh, before some of you were born. So I say that because, I'm just moving into slideshow here, that one of the things that we realized is when these changes occurred, although many of us expected it for years, it did catch some of us a little bit off guard. The other part that I think is important is that, with all due respect to NICET, we did not have a lot of communication. Building leaders, building principals, we believe you got two communications directly. One in 2017 when they were announced, and the second came from Renee Ryder in January of 2018 with an implementation plan, which was followed shortly by what is called the guidance to the regulations, which I will focus on today. It's a lot easier to talk about the guidance to the regulations than it is to look at those regulations themselves. So I am happy to be here with you. Just a little bit about me, no more than 30 seconds. I've been a practicing school counselor, middle school counselor. I was a supervisor in 5 districts on Long Island. Yes, guys, I couldn't keep a job. No, it was interesting as some of our districts started to incorporate elementary school counseling back in the 90s, early 2000s. And then I crossed over to the far side. I'm at NYIT, where I've been teaching school counseling since 2001. So today we're going to focus basically on collaboration again, but looking at some of the key components, which is about using data and looking at outcomes, because New York State does ask us not just to write our programs down, but also to evaluate and assess them. So just a reminder, counselors and principals working together can make magic, and they can change the climate and their culture of their school buildings. And most importantly, we want to make sure that what's happening in our schools reflect the very, very best of contemporary school counseling programs, not just school counseling services. So today, very briefly, I'm going to skip over quite a few of these slides because you can read them yourself later on, but we're going to go over using data in comprehensive counseling, which has been part of the Asco National Model since 2003. And many of you know we're in the 4th edition, 2019. We're going to look at how school counseling aligns with school improvement goals, which our building leaders, our principals, do every year. And in New York City, it's called the Comprehensive Education Plan. Same thing, just a different title. We'll talk about monitoring program outcomes, and we'll go over a couple of tools. And then tomorrow, Dr. Rotunda will probably put a whole package of things together for you. At the end of this, he'll also let you know where you can find not just the recording of this webinar, but a recording of some of the prior webinars. Just a quick reminder that this is one part of 4 workshops we did on these topics related to implementing the regulations. So the first workshop was just a general overview, which included talking about things like access. Then we talked about the individual progress review and the curriculum last week. Today we're focusing on direct services and how do we measure their effectiveness. So just a reminder that looking at effectiveness in measurable terms has been around for quite a while. I was reviewing the ethical code last night, the Asco ethical code, which is in the revision process. And even in our ethical code, it reminds us to use data, use it for the benefit of all students as a social justice tool, and to ensure that what we're doing is having an impact. So very briefly, and then folks, not to read these by any means, but I put into this presentation, which you will receive tomorrow, that the new regs do ask us to develop an annual plan or develop a plan and update it annually that includes our program activities, objectives, and also the evaluation methods based on data analysis of program results. They also mentioned some of the Asco tools, such as closing the gap analysis, which informs program improvement. But honestly, if you are looking at your results and you are monitoring your results and you're thinking, how did these results impact our students' success? It's very similar to using a formal closing the gap. I guess we'll call it an action plan from Asco. Some of us are using SMART goals. Some of us are using measures. So we have lots of tools out there that help us determine to what degree are our programs being successful. But it's interesting that this time around, NICE had put this in the regulations. And when you look at the guidance to the regs, you'll actually see that in Appendix D. And the link also up top here, you'll receive that tomorrow. So what is NICE actually asking us to do? Not what are they writing about, but what are they telling us that's important? Well, they're asking us to put together an outcomes report. Now, I'll show you a tool again later. We've looked at it before, but NICE had put in the guidance to the regs, another appendix, Appendix E, which they call program mapping, that actually can also address program outcomes. So Appendix D and Appendix E together, a program mapping tool that actually asks us how effective was this activity. Excuse me, folks, I have a little cold this morning. And then last but not least, we will also share with you another form of a mapping tool that puts it all together from the activity to the standard to the outcome. So we'll go through those with you. And again, you'll receive those tomorrow if you haven't looked at them already. Again, this is a great time, ladies and gentlemen, to start planning ahead for next year. So what are these ABCs? Well, New York City is using ABCs, and if we had lots of time today, we could do a poll, but we won't. But what are these ABCs for student success? Asco uses them also a little bit differently. So A, attendance achievement. B, behavior. Behavior is much more positive than looking at the word discipline. And C, New York City uses coursework. I believe Asco is using college and career access, which is a measurable outcome. To what degree our students, our kids, crossing the finish line of high school and having all options and taking those options. Now we have to put in a context. COVID's changed things up a lot for our students. Many of our students took a gap year last year. Many of our students deferred their college admission. It's going to be very interesting. Those of you who are high school counselors and are principals of high schools, to see the data differences from 20 and 21 now to 22. But both Asco and New York City refer to the ABCs, and I think that's an easy thing to remember, because just about everything we do in our schools is reflected in helping our kids get to school every day, helping them succeed academically, improving their behavior, which is also about social emotional development, which is a federal mandate as well as a New York State mandate. And then how are they doing in their coursework? How are they selecting the appropriate coursework that will give them all options after high school and making sure that they have college and career readiness or college and career access. So let me do a quick check-in and let me see. We have visitors today who have a great model of collaboration for us. Evan Klein, Denise Sikoris, and Najma Adams from PSIS 226, which is a K-8 school in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. Evan, Denise,
Yes.
Najma,
Good morning.
great to hear you this morning. Do you want me to run this slide for you?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. We're so happy that you're here today. Evan, Denise, and Najma are in the area of Brooklyn called Brooklyn South, not far from where I grew up in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. Greg, we thank you again for introducing us to this wonderful team. And they want to share with you a little bit about some of the collaboration between school counselor and principal, some of the amazing things they're doing for a few minutes. And Evan, also talk about how long it took you to get a second school counselor in your building and the difference that it's made. So happy to see you guys this morning, and just jump in, and I'm going to be quiet.
Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you all for inviting me to join you this morning, along with my two amazing school counselors, Ms. Sikoris and Ms. Adam. Yes, it did. This is my 6th year as proud principal of PSIS 226, and it did take me 5 years and an additional funding line and a lot of advocacy from our city council to be able to hire another school counselor. Finally, Ms. Adam worked part-time at our school prior, but there were a whole bunch of hiring restrictions. So at a school like ours, that we're at 913 pre-K to 8th grade students now, but we've usually historically been at over 1,000, about 1,050. And so to have only one school counselor for 1,050 students in 10 grades, Ms. Sikoris, my hat continuously goes off to you for trying to have such a comprehensive school counseling program, which we pride ourselves in, but it really needed a second school counselor. So happy to have Ms. Adam here with us. And just to briefly introduce, and then I'll let them jump into more of the specifics. We integrate social, emotional, and academic learning throughout our school comprehensive counseling program. We use multiple data sources to inform our interventions. We believe deeply that the ladder of referral begins in the classroom. We have adopted the ruler approach. You'll see there, we were just announced a very prestigious honor, along with 5 other schools, as a ruler mentor school, along with one other New York City school and 5 other schools in the country. We adopted a ruler as our approach to social emotional learning. We believe that not only do our students and families benefit tremendously, but our faculty, our staff, benefit tremendously from recognizing, understanding, labeling, expressing, and then ultimately the hierarchy of ruler, trying to regulate your emotions so you can be successful, in and out of school, college and career, in our personal lives, and of course, in our professional careers in our school communities, which need this, I think we would all agree now more than ever. We also lead school-wide activities and received Respect for All designation and No Place for Hate school designation by the Anti-Defamation League. We've changed our programming around to demonstrate this commitment to social emotional learning. Again, adopted it 5 years ago. Dr. Mark Brackett was a professor of mine. We piloted this my first year. And then after a few of us, and Ms. Sikoris was a pioneer, she went to Yale University with the original cohort and received this training. And then we turnkeyed it school-wide, and teachers have really adopted it and bought in. And our students are quite emotionally intelligent. It's part of our mission, but we've embedded this into our programming. We have advisory in our middle school each week. And we have SEL instructional periods built into our elementary program as well. But I know we definitely want to hear more from Ms. Sikoris and Ms. Adam to dive a little bit deeper into the nuts and bolts of the ABCs of what we do. So I'll turn it over to our amazing school counselors. And thank you all, Ms. Sikoris and Ms. Adam.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Thank you, Mr. Klein.
And I'll jump in, and we're here for any questions. I'll jump into the chat. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm Miss Adam. This is Miss T. I'm one of the new counselors that just started working, and Miss T is our senior counselor. So just to introduce our counseling department a little bit. So we collaborate on everything that we do. We constantly contact each other throughout the day, you know, on what's going on, what we're working on. So there's great communication in order to, you know, get things done in an effective, efficient manner. We also work with Mr. Klein, our principal, very closely. We meet multiple times a month to discuss attendance, to discuss child safety, to discuss crisis situations. We even meet to discuss individual cases sometimes where there's a lot going on and we need to conference with the administration. We need to conference with, you know, other team members who can help with the situation going on. And then Ms. T is going to dive into the ABCs and start with attendance.
Thank you, Ms. Adam. So we'll start off with A for attendance and achievement. We try to align our counseling program based on our CP goals each year. And this year, we're focusing on reducing our chronic absenteeism. So some practical strategies that we have been using that we find to be successful is we do a lot of check-ins with the students with the high absences, even with the latenesses as well. The attendance coordinators and the counselors, we do check-ins. We have a success mentor program, which includes several individual teachers who do motivational talks with the students. Mid-year, we do a Pathway to Perfect Attendance Award ceremony. And then every June, we have a prestigious attendance award ceremony where the kids get certificates and prizes. So that seems to be working out very well. Another thing that we do to improve our attendance is we started using the DESA program. So after the initial DESA screener this year, we started to implement empowerment groups that the principal, the assistant principal, the counselors, and our school social worker are involved in. We targeted second graders, fourth graders, fifth graders, and all our middle schoolers, 6th, 7th, and 8th. We meet every 2 weeks. We pick those students based on their combined T-score. Some were low, some were middle, and some were higher. And then also recently, about a week ago, we received the responses to a Google survey that we sent out that went out through advisory, and that also went to individual students that we targeted based out on our students in temporary housing list, on our students with special needs, our multi-language learners. So now we're in the process of getting those results together to see what the interests of those students are, to see if we have any programs or services within the school to plug them in, or if we can find resources in the community to get them, you know, involved in the activities that they like. So we use these DESA groups to add to the excitement, you know, that the kids have, so they could want to come to school and come on time. Okay, so that would be like the attendance portion that I can think of.
Thank you. And I'll be discussing, so the B for behavior. So for behavior in our school, what we do is one of the approaches we use in our counseling sessions is the ruler approach, and that's used school-wide. So what we do is we do check-ins and check-outs before and after our counseling session. So for example, when students come into my office, I have a take what you need and give what you can to keep swimming bulletin board. And, you know, bulletin board with envelopes that have choices from like support, joy, love, motivation, and so on. And students, what they do is as soon as they come in, the bulletin board's on the wall and they're gonna grab something. And then we'll discuss, you know, why they chose to grab that. Sometimes they even grab it to give to someone else because, you know, they have a peer who's having a bad day or something happened at the home or they need support, right? And we'll talk about that. Ms. T has a wall that's called the B wall. So students will be asked if they want to be feeling that way right now, after the check-in, before the check-in. If a student says no, then they can look at the wall and pick how they want to be feeling right now and how we can get there. So for example, if they want to be feeling, joyful, how can we get to the joyful, section of the wall? What can we do right now in this session? So that's what we do for the ruler approach. We also have a crisis team for support. So for students in need, multiple team members are on call, constantly supporting one another to improve someone's behavior in a classroom, outside the classroom. We do Panther points as prizes, as an incentive for students. We do monitor duties as a reward to encourage students to behave. We have green team. We have reading to younger students, which are, middle school students love, because it's a way for them to grow and excel as well. And then we also have restorative circles. So when there's a lot of behavioral issues or peer conflict, we have restorative circles in classrooms. We have restorative circles in smaller group settings, and so on. As for our coursework achievement, we do IPRs for our middle school students, which are individual progress reports. So we set up schedules based on their non-academic classes. We meet with each middle schooler individually to discuss present academic grades, attendance progress. We'll talk about, their interests, their talents, and their hobbies, the family involvement, what their future goals are, right? We start talking about college, what they aspire to be, if they have a vocation. We talk about career assessments. We talk about, inventories that they can use and utilize. Some of the ones that we use are New York State Career Zone. We use mynextmove.org, which is DOE recommended. We use VA Career View, and we even use this for elementary school students. We talk about, career, we talk about college, start introducing the topic at an early age to get our students thinking about their future. So that's how we work on the ABCs in our school. And then, of course, we collaborate with our administration. We have great support from Mr. Klein and the rest of our team as well.
Ms. Adam, we had a request to slow down. There was too much great information shared so quickly, but feel free to ask any questions.
Definitely. If you guys have questions, please let me know.
And we also wanted to thank Mr. Greg Yankovic for always being such a support system to all of us and to all his counselors and all our counselors in Brooklyn South. Thank you, Mr. Yankovic.
Yeah, Mr. Yankovic, incredible support. I can't thank you enough.
So we have a question. What are the monitor duties for students? The students are allowed to go into classrooms and support teachers during their lunch breaks. So they can assist with students in class, they can help teachers, grade homework assignments.
Reading to the younger students.
Reading to younger students, things like that. So one of the things is, can they be shared in a note format or something afterwards? Definitely, we can share it with Carol, and I guess she can share it out with everyone on the call.
Sounds great.
Yes, we'll do that.
Yeah, we can put a list together, no worries, and attach it, or I can, I'm thinking I'll add it to the slides. And that way, when everybody gets the presentation tomorrow, I'll make a third slide for your school. Do you want me to go to the next slide for you?
Sure.
Here we go. This is fabulous. Oh, wait a minute. There we go.
Oh, I just wanted to share that this is, when people walk into the main office or outside of my office, this is a mural that was just completed to really demonstrate. Oh, yeah, Carol, you switched.
Yeah, here it is.
Oh, there you go. Just to really demonstrate visually, how powerful the ruler approach here is. A school, and the mood meter is really the feature tool, in addition to the charter, in addition to the meta moment, in addition to the blueprint that we use. But they're tools, and the teachers have a lot of autonomy. But as you can see, the 4 different quadrants, and you plot yourself based on pleasantness and energy level. Pleasantness is the x-axis, and the energy levels, the y-axis. So I start town halls every month with our families by asking them, and a lot of our PD sessions also with our faculty and teachers do this in the classroom, just to ask people how they're feeling, to take a moment to raise some awareness, to think of the vocabulary. There are hundreds of emotional intelligence vocabulary words, and then where do you want your mood to be today? Because that is a real conscious process. If you want to be excited or motivated, but you're in the blue, or you're sad, you're depressed, or you just had a loss in your family, really thinking about where you want your mood to be today. Is there a regulation strategy that you can utilize, positive self-talk, or, some deep breathing, or thinking about something that you're looking forward to. Of course, the important thing that I'm pretty sure school counselors don't do enough of is, are they practicing self-care? Or are they just taking care of everyone else but themselves? So I think that's something that we all, as administrators and teachers, need to do a lot more of practicing self-care. So I just wanted to give everybody that opportunity to just think about how they're feeling, raise that awareness, and then where do you want your mood to be today? And if you're comfortable, it's completely optional. You can put that in the chat. I am exhausted and at the same time motivated and excited to be here with you this morning. But May and June, as you know, in schools are incredibly intense. And I think this year feels just more intense than previous years for obvious reasons, being back in person this year. And then all the exciting things we're planning for our students and families with not enough time left to go. So you can feel a lot of different ways. And have a lot of different feelings at the same time, and be in multiple quadrants. So if you're comfortable sharing how you're feeling, feel free to put that in the chat, or some great self-care strategies that you might be using as well. Exercise for me, and sleep, and attempting to sleep are two big ones that I'm trying to do, be mindful of doing each and every day. But thank you so much, Carol.
Mr. Klein and Mr. Corus, Miss Adams, we so appreciate your joining us this morning and sharing so many amazing things that are going on in your building. I mean, it's a great model of how counselors and principals working together, supporting each other, taking care of each other. We appreciate that. And understanding that everything we do together is for the betterment of our kids' success. And we know now more than ever before, coming out of COVID, well, we hope we're coming out of COVID. Who knows, right? But, things like this mood meter check-in in a K-8 school, how important is that? And we could all check in, or, to help us all figure out how we're feeling on any given day. So I will share everything that you've shared with us, Mr. Klein, Ms. Sikoris, Ms. Adam. If you want to shoot me an email later, I'll put them in a slide, and I will make it the third slide from your school. And as you know, you are now famous on the NISCA YouTube channel. So we've been memorialized. So thank you so much. And I know, Mr. Klein, you have a meeting to go to. Mr. Sikoris and Ms. Adam, please feel free to stay if you'd like. And I can't wait to come visit the three of you in Bensonhurst, my old stopping grounds. Thank you so much this morning.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Great.
Pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything burning in there, Dr. Rotunda, before I continue? Any burning question?
I think there was one DESA question. Someone had asked if we collaborate only with administration, or is it teachers too? So we collaborate with our teachers too. What we recently did was we broke it down. So Mr. Corus, held a PD for grades 6 to 8 with one of the administrators. I did 3 to 5, and then we had our social worker do K to 2. And what we did was, we went through the process with the teachers. We gave them printout copies of their previous assessments for the students so they can have something to compare, analyze results. We answered questions. So we held a whole PD session just to kind of review, answer any questions, uncertainties, and things like that. So we do collaborate with our teachers as well.
Thank you, Najma. And Mr. Klein did put the DESA link into chat, so you can scroll back up and find that. DESA is used citywide in New York City. It was part of the last Mayor de Blasio's campaign around mental health. And so that got instituted this year, where every student takes an SEL assessment, and those results are used, as you can see, by our counselors and our principals to support every student's social emotional balance. Thank you again, and please feel free to stay. So let me just move on a little bit more, and we'll get to a few nuts and bolts because we need to do that also. But our visitors this morning, our counselors and our principal, really made us realize how much can be done when we're all working together. So again, data sources, you folks know where they are. Counselors, you've been using data since the day you walked into your buildings, whether it was report card data, report card comments, attendance, graduation, course selection. So you all know where to get the data. But this was a great slide that Dr. Rotunda shared with me. And it's the connection of multi-tiered systems of support with using data. I wasn't even thinking about that the same way. But here we have the tier 1 activities. And those of you who do program mapping know we recognize tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, knowing that the tier 1 was a real big push from NYSED to get counselors out there working with all students, and that meant also curriculum, and the IPR, the individual student plan. And so we've got tier 1 activities, and then we know, and I don't know why this escaped me for such a long time, we use what we've learned from tier 1 activities to create group counseling, to create small groups for tier 2. And then we use that tier 2 data to set up individual counseling sessions or refer students. Very similar, our principals will understand, same as a model that classroom teachers use. Whole group instruction, small group instruction, and then one-on-one remediation or tutoring. So councils, we've been using this model since we started. We always had whole group classroom. We always had group counseling. We've always utilized individual counseling. So certainly this is nothing new, but it was that connection to data. That's why I love this slide. So thank you, Dr. Rotunda. Now I'm going to share this again with you, the mindsets and behavior standards. In our last session, a few folks said, what happened to the old standards? Well, they were reconfigured back in 2014. You will recognize a lot of the standards and the competencies under the learning strategies, under the self-management skills, and under the social skills. The mindsets themselves are very broad. They're almost like mission statements for us. But the behavior standards are what help us now identify what are the skills and knowledge our students need to know and be able to do as a result of participating in a school counseling program. So again, I'm putting this in the slide. We're also going to send you a copy. I think it's in the area that Dr. Rotunda will share with us later, where everything is housed. But again, these are important now to help inform our programs. The original standards we wrote back in '97, so it was a long haul. It was 17 years before they were remixed and updated. They were slightly tweaked in the summer of 2021, just a little bit of the language. And this is the 2021 version. So let's talk a little bit more. Program mapping, how does that help you identify your activity, your standard, your tier, and your outcome? That's really the bottom line of what we're trying to do. Keeping it, I hate to use the word, fairly simple, keeping it all in one place. So when on an annual basis you go back and you update, you're updating from where you started. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel and again, start all over again. Here's the important one. According to NICET in 2018, and then the source is here, from the guidance to the regs, this identifies the tiered activities, the indirect and direct activities, and helps you identify the gaps. So I could have the best SEL program in my K-5 school, but I probably need now to think about, what does CCR look like in 2nd grade? And what does academic motivation look like in 5th grade, getting them ready for middle school? So here's how it all connects. And I'll show you the real mapping form in just a second, but we take the activity, we align it with a standard, we select the grade level it's intended for. Is it academic, SEL, CCR? Is it tier 1 for all? Is it group? Is it tier 3 individual? Is it direct service to students? And many of you coming out of grad school in the last 10 years will remember direct services are with students, indirect services are on behalf of students. Timeline, when does this happen? Well, we all have calendars, so this is a great opportunity to put our calendar together and begin to make sure that our calendar is in balance. Who's involved? Well, we always have students involved, but let's not forget about our family partners, our teachers, our social workers, our parent coordinators. Some of us have a college counselor. Some of us have a drug and alcohol counselor. Who is involved in the activity with us? Remember, activities, many of our activities, especially around curriculum, involve other professionals in our building. And then what's the goal and the outcome? Really important that we have an outcome. We have an intention. So no longer do we do things because we like them, even though we like them. We need to do things because they're going to have an impact on our students. So here's something maybe a little bit more filled out for you. So here's a classroom lesson on overcoming obstacles. Many of you know that program for the high school. It's aligned with a learning standard. And you can see the standard at the bottom of the screen, demonstrate critical thinking skills. It is an academic domain or SEL, depending upon how you're, skewing it. And the goal here in this particular activity, this particular classroom lesson, is to decrease the number of failing course marks by 5%. Now, let's be honest. One lesson is not going to do it, but overcoming obstacles is a series of programs and a series of lessons in a program. You might be doing 5 or 6 academic motivational lessons in your 9th grade, in your 10th, in your 11th grade. And maybe overall, you can begin to get the feedback from teachers. You can look at report card grades. Our computers will sort and select all that data for you to see whether or not your lessons on decision making and academic motivation are contributing. Remember, we can't do this unilaterally, but contributing the numbers to the numbers of kids who are now passing courses instead of failing courses. And the same time here, this looks like it might be more of a middle school restorative circles, elementary school, an SEL activity. And we're hoping by engaging our kids in these circles that we're also going to decrease the number of behavioral infractions by 5%. Those are long-term goals. Again, it's the ABCs, A for course marks and B for behavior. So again, be thinking about that not every outcome is immediately measured. You're looking at how your activities come together over time and make an impact. So what successes have you seen this year as a result of your comprehensive school counseling program? Somebody's had a great success this year. You know, even if you're in the 2nd year of implementation in New York City, or in the third year across the state, drop that in chat. And let's see if we have a couple of great success stories to share. Dr. Rotunda, do you want to keep an eye on that for a minute?
Yes, I will.
Okay, perfect. And I will go to the next slide while we're waiting to see what are those great success stories. And while we're waiting for those, I'm just going to remind everybody the 5 basic changes. Again, this is not the Asco model. It's part of the Asco model. It's up to you to go further when you want to. NYSED wanted us to better organize our programs, have a better impact on our students, and ensure that we do get to meet every one of our students every year. Dr. Rotunda, we have a couple of things there.
Got our school attendance has improved to being the highest in the district from Jose Ortiz.
Excellent.
Our Tamika Richards says our implementation teams completed the Ruler Institute and we introduced second step in K-8 program. Cool. That's it for the moment.
Thank you, folks. But if you have any more great successes, please brag. Everything you're doing, everything you're changing that's new, everything you're trying that's new, it's always a risk. But the only way we learn and grow is by taking those chances. And the only way our programs are going to improve and get better is by taking those chances.
Got a couple more. Our Kayleen responds, our 3-5 grade course grades increased after receiving a series of SEL lessons on the topic of test anxiety and growth mindset. Cool.
Wow.
And from Aaron, I am excited to hear these. We just hired May 2nd for an upcoming school year as a first year counselor. Okay, so she's reporting she just got a job. Yay.
Congratulations. Welcome to the profession. Okay, so let's put this all together. We promised our principals and our counselors a tight 45 minutes, and then Dr. Rotunda and I will stay on for the next 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you need to answer your questions. And we'll leave that Q&A going until we're finished. And then at that also will be recorded. So effective school counseling programs are aligned with school improvement. Don't forget, counselors and principals, this is the perfect, whoops, it went ahead of me. The perfect opportunity to start planning for next year. Our principals already planned for next year. Your school improvement goals are probably being refined. Your CEPs, comprehensive education plans, are probably being refined. But counselors, let's think now about the ABCs: academic, attitudinal, social outcomes, looking at attendance, promotion, on-time graduation, self-efficacy through SEL, respect, cooperative behavior, reducing bullying, and more of our kids now getting ready for post-secondary options, and hopefully a great improvement over 2020 and 2021 when we were still addressing the ups and downs of COVID. So what are you going to get from us, from NYSCA? We're going to send you an Excel program mapping worksheet. We're going to send you the NYSED, those 2 appendices, Appendix D and Appendix E, the program outcomes worksheet. We'll send you a copy of the mindsets and behaviors. And again, I know Dr. Rotunda will tell us where he has a lot of these things saved for you. We'll give you a link to the 312 lessons in the NYSCA School Counseling Lesson Repository, which is amazing to be able to start finding some additional lessons to close those gaps. You'll get a copy of this presentation. And of course, we'll give you the guidance to the amended regulations. Again, that will be packaged together. Dr. Rotunda, maybe you better speak to this because I keep giving you jobs.
I'll put the link to the folder where all this stuff lives in chat in just a second, and I will also put it in the email that I send you all.
Thank you. Okay, so no worries about getting everything, folks. Please, Dr. Rotunda, can you throw this link in chat for us? So
Great.
before you leave, we need your feedback because I take the feedback from each week before I plan next week's lesson. Listen to me, I feel like I'm back in class. Before we plan next week's workshop. And so this exit ticket will take you 3 minutes. If you could just complete it before you leave this morning, and that way we can fine tune for next week's workshop, same time, same place on our NISCA YouTube channel. We're going to focus on how to update your plans for next year, looking at gaps and thinking about the tools that will be helpful. Again, taking ownership next week, reflect, refine, and revise your annual program plan. So I think we are just a minute or two over. Thank you. And we are ready. And I'll just share this with you at the end of the presentation. Again, lots of the links that you could be using. And also there is a brand new counselor principal toolkit for collaboration and some things there to help you, as well as the links to NISCA and the NISCA curriculum repository. So I'm going to stop sharing and we will just jump right in to any Q&A, Bob, that we might have.
I had one, let me unmute myself. I had one question that came up regarding college and career readiness. Maybe somebody else from the group can help us with this a little bit. It says, I have a question regarding student career plans that are required by New York State. Do you know if a program such as XELLO, which our district uses, can be a career plan rather than the form that NICEAD suggests? I have an opinion, but does anybody else have a response to that?
Yeah, I just have an opinion also, Bob. Let's see if anybody else has some thoughts on that. Any high school counselors?
The career plan, which can be part of the IPRs, I think.
That's exactly what I was going to say, because you're recording your IPR. Is it necessary? I don't know. I think the most important thing is that each student does have career goals and a plan. I think of it as a post-secondary plan, which would include both college and career planning, or college and post-secondary planning. Secondary planning could be 2-year apprenticeships, military. Anyway, any counselors there have some ideas? Yeah, career zone, absolutely. Some people are using Naviance to capture that data.
Just say, like, for the future, that is a place I struggle. And I look at it like post-secondary, and we do that, and I could check every box. Aside from that, I do think helping students think about stuff has been hard, and every kind of like survey or something pisses them off. And I haven't found, I mean, we do a career day to introduce students to ideas and things like that, but it is a place where there's not been like a ton of new support for us as counselors or ideas to bring to that table. So that's an interesting thing to think about.
Lori, that's a good point. In the NISCA lesson repository, there are 8 college and career readiness activities for each grade level. But put that on the exit survey. Maybe we need a workshop next year of counselors sharing best practices.
I mean, I haven't been to one like ever on that topic. So, and I go to a lot of workshops.
Yeah, no. Drop that in the exit survey.
I will.
Capture that. And then Dr. Rattan is taking that back to NISCA to see what we need to do. You know, some states do more around career than others. You know, New York put together Career Zone, and they probably thought that that was going to do it all. But let's explore that for next year. I think more than, Laura, you're at the middle school. You're in high school.
I'm in a high school.
Okay, sorry about that.
I did 10 years middle, 10 years high so far.
Okay, I sort of remembered you were in middle. But I guess what I'm going to say is that our colleagues in the elementary schools were really struggling, which is why we made sure we had 8 for kindergarten, 8 for first grade. But I think for high school, maybe something more formal, especially if you're not using Naviance. But thank you, Lori, for that suggestion. Throw it in the exit survey. I'm posting it.
Thank you, I
again.
will.
And I put the folder up where all of the stuff lives in the chat. I'll also put that in the email that I send you.
Great, thank you. Folks, any other questions?
Cool. All right. So coming to a school near you, or coming to a video screen near you, here's our professional development committee members, Dr. Gail Reed Barnett, Cynthia Wally, Kathy Corbett, myself, Laura Mesa, and Cheryl Hall. And upcoming, we have school counseling matters. Nope, that we already did that. Our last of this series is taking ownership, reflecting and revising on your annual program plan, which is next Wednesday at this time. We have a webinar on dating abuse and teen violence coming up this Thursday at 4 o'clock. Dr. Bob Bidding from Alfred University is doing it. He's presented for us before. He's very good. And our friends in the Carpenters Union are doing a webinar on careers in carpentry. Lots of jobs in carpentry. Parents and kids are also invited. The links to these are all on our website, on our calendar. Annual conference is coming. Again, if you have any questions, you can email us either to my email or zoom@nisca.org or info@nisca.org, and we can get right back to you. Anything else for today? Onetime.org.
One, two,
I don't know how to say it.
1, 2, I know.
Oh, OpNet, okay.
Sorry.
Oh, ONET, yeah, okay, now I know. Now I've heard of that.
Of course, right.
Okay, I've heard of that, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is a good,
for high school.
it is a good career website. And we do save these chats, and we'll send a link to the chats like we did last week as well. Cool.
Thanks for being here, folks. We appreciate, especially if your principals came along with you, just to make sure that we all understand what we need to do together. And it's really about working together.
All right. Have a great week.